haven't seen the first part of this, Drapers and the Rockefellers, Birth of the Modern Petrodollar, be sure to go back and see the first part. Here we are having the second part of this. Um, and what I found here is that move over Rothschilds, the Rockefellers really shaped America, like truly shaped America. Okay, so yeah, let's get into it. And as always, starting out with my guy Indigo Saint, check out his channel at the Third Eye. Okay, boom, let's get into it. Let's get it. Indigo Saint in the building. Black View Investing. Let's go.
Who's this producer? Best believe it was black or invested. With your money, you ain't gotta be guessing. Profits is what we manifested. So we binge on a black or invested. Best believe it was black or invested. Dark horse in this race, we ain't resting. We got stocks, we got crypto with a blessing. So thank God for that black or invested. Best believe it was black or invested.
Okay, let me go ahead and share the screen so I don't forget this time. So, hope everyone's having a wonderful Sunday. Hold on 1 second here. So yeah, I hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday. As always, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Again, so we're going to finish out this Rockefeller and Draper connection here. If you haven't seen the rest of what we've done with this whole series, check out Swift Blockchain, Drapers, Three Generations of International Banking, Business, and Policy. And then Drapers and Rockefellers Birth of the Modern Petrodollar. Okay. Um, this is amazing doing this research, guys, just to understand what's going on here. Now, one of the things that we can kind of really pull away from this research is that the Drapers and the Rockefellers, and it seems like the Rothschilds here, they created the whole technology internet boom. Okay. And none other than Tim Draper's father and Tim Draper's grandfather created the whole venture capital thing. Okay? And that whole venture capital thing, in the backdrop of that, gets created the United Nations, NATO, and everything that happened after World War II. World War II was pivotal in setting up the modern petrodollar. Okay. Then later on, we have all the things that happened with Nixon and removing us off the gold standard, and that even that takes things even further, right? But everything seems to be set up with the modern petrodollar happened after World War II. And after that war, remember, William Henry Draper Jr., Draper's grandfather, was responsible with the plan for setting up everything and rebuilding Western Europe. Okay. And the amount of money that the Drapers must have made for the Rockefellers and all these other families, including their own, must have been amazing. Okay. Amazing. And what we're going to notice here too is it seems like um, never will there be like it seems to be that now these families obfuscate like kind of cover themselves and like put other people in the forefront so you do not know it's them anymore. Like never will you have someone like who we're going to go over today, Nelson Rockefeller, be like the vice president of the United States and do all that and directly tie things back to a Rockefeller name. Is going to be like a few levels deep, tied to someone that don't necessarily know represents their interests, but you would have to follow the tea leaves. Like for instance, I want look at Elon Musk a little bit more because it seems like Elon is highly connected to Draper, in that if you look at Draper was an initial investor in Twitter, he was an initial investor in SpaceX, he's an initial investor in Tesla. He seems to be very much invested in the things that Elon does. So I want to kind of look there, and also, you know how Draper says that he has a lot of investments in China, and his investments in China helped him get his riches. We've shown you here how Draper and Draper's grandfather and his father kind of started those connections in China. Well, Elon and Tesla, they're one of the few companies that actually can operate in China. So there is seems to be some type of connection there with Draper and Musk that we probably need to go over at some point. But let's without ado kind of get into um, this finishing this here. And where I would like to start is John Davison Rockefeller Sr. Now, this is a pretty good picture of him. Some of the some of the pictures when he gets older just like creep me the heck out. Like this one here. There's some other ones where he just looks very, very gaunt. Um, they just creep me the hell out. But one of the things to note here, this Rockefeller here, John D. Rockefeller. This is the most kind of famous Rockefeller here. Um, he created a lot of our modern school system. So the General Education Board was created by this Rockefeller, along with the University of Chicago, various other universities, and his spouse, Laura Spelman Rockefeller, seems to be whom Spelman, the Black College Spelman, was named after. So a lot of our education system, including some Black colleges, and even connecting them to Yale, because Spelman seems to be connected to Yale. She's a member of the Yale family, comes from the Rockefellers. Amazing. Um, and they're here that Standard Oil in that whole monopoly case ends up being broken up, and kind of some of the companies that comes out of that are Chase Bank, which later on a grandson, Rockefeller, like probably the second most or third most famous Rockefeller, ends up being the chief executive of Chase Manhattan Corporation. Okay. Um, but I just wanted to point out, where is he? Gotta go back now. John D. Rockefeller, because he seems to be the Rockefeller that really kind of started things here with Standard Oil. So founding and leading Standard Oil Company. This is kind of the progenitor, if you will, or like um, the starting Rockefeller. Okay. Um, so after this Rockefeller, and him starting all of these educational foundations and all of that, we have his kid, which is John Davison Rockefeller Jr. And this Rockefeller ends up marrying Abby Green Aldrich, who Aldrich is that guy we covered. Let me see. Winthrop Aldrich. So this guy is the son of a Standard Oil founder, Nelson W. Aldrich. So they end up intermarrying and kind of solidifying this into the Rockefeller family via John Davis Rockefeller, who ends up being David Rockefeller's father. Okay, so John Davison Rockefeller not only fathered David Rockefeller, but Lawrence Rockefeller. And remember last time when we were going over this this PDF in which kind of um, Tim Draper's father, um, William Henry Draper III, ends up telling us that the Rockefellers founded his father's venture firm, which was one of the first in America. Okay, so the Rockefellers put 2 million into their firm. Okay, so it seems like his father, William Henry Draper Jr., was a trusted kind of banker, friend of the Rockefellers. You've seen that we've went back as far with the Drapers to like the East India Company, which I still want to get more into that a little bit later. Um, but here that if you read this entire article, which I'll make it available on the gram, I'll share it to you guys. What they eventually end up asking Draper's dad is, what, like, you just started to get into electronics, and they like got into technology. So the whole birth of technology and condominiums, they even talk about how like they invested in like the second condominium apartment complex ever, which was like one in Hawaii. So these people are definitely making moves, big moves around the world, um, around our world, right? Around North America. And it seems like it's starting with Rockefeller money. Okay. So you go back here. So, okay, where were we? Okay, Lawrence Rockefeller. So this group of Rockefellers, Lawrence Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller, David Rockefeller, they did a lot. They did a lot. Okay, so Lawrence Rockefeller, he was also like a VC in his own right, because you can see here it says that he provided venture capital funding for Intel and Apple. Okay, so again, this is why kind of we want to know, do this little research, because if you realize that if a Rockefeller is investing in Intel and Apple, of course you won't be like a private investor, but you would know to be a part of it now, and you would get some of the like Underdog Research Channel says, the crumbs from these millionaires, like billions, right? Um, so this guy, I just thought that was something to note, that he was an initial investor for Apple. Okay, so you can see there that this guy was pretty influential himself. Um, and his brother Nelson did a lot. So okay, so he was vice president under Gerald Ford, and this is all around the whole Nixon time, and the time that Nixon takes the U.S. off of the gold standard. Now, one of the things to note about Nelson Rockefeller, which we read last time in this little article we were reading before, is that Nelson Rockefeller was big time buddies with Henry Kissinger. Okay. Another thing to note, he's involved in the United Nations as well, which, remember, Draper's father was the first, Tim Draper's granddaddy William Draper Jr. was the first U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and it was first created, um, you know, during Harry Truman Eisenhower's time. It was first created then, right around the end of World War II. Okay, so this Rockefeller is kind of involved while all of this is happening, even though he's kind of young at this point in time. At that point in time, he's young, but he manages to come later on and be like a vice president, but he's still around doing stuff at that point. First, Undersecretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, and how we mentioned, um, previous Rockefeller created the public education system. Um, Seems like this Rockefeller buzzing around, and you know, the stuff he's doing with Kissinger, where, let me see if we can pull him up. Remember that Klaus Schwab is Henry Kissinger's like mentor. Okay, so various funds here that that Kissinger is a part of at Rockefeller's request, but he says something here where, um, okay, yeah, this initial contact with Kissinger was to a lifelong relationship. Kissinger was later to be described as his closest intellectual associate. Okay, so kind of makes sense here. Rockefeller, Kissinger to Klaus Schwab, Draper, all of that coming out of what the World Economic Forum and what Draper now do with crypto, right? So this is kind of the second wave of our money creation, right? Um, it kind of makes sense here, that, you know, if you look at this upper level, this Rockefeller level, the Drapers have been working for, or working with, or for, however you want to slice that pie, the Rockefellers, right? And the Rockefellers have been had like this whole like world involvement as far as like United Nations, Henry Kissinger, World Economic Forum type things go. Okay, um, let's go back to this article here where if this cool, and by the way, let's point out who made it. Murray in Rothbard, in which he tells us that William E. Draper Jr., Draper's granddaddy, was vice president of Dillon Reed Co. We went over that last time, but basically it tells us that he was a member of the Rockefeller Foundation for almost 2 decades. So again, we told you he was the first ambassador to NATO under Truman. Okay, so the Drapers have been involved in this stuff kind of intimately. Um, just is what it is there. And let's just take us over here to this article in which they're interviewing Draper's granddaddy, or I'm sorry, his daddy, in which they say that the Rockefellers funded their firm, his daddy's firm. So it seems to be that some of their money that they've made was Rockefeller funded money, and he goes on to tell you later the Rockefellers funded something else for them. I got called by our by the Rockefellers, our big limited partner. So they seem to mix money with the Rockefellers often. Okay, and that makes a whole bunch of sense, because now that makes sense while we have the whole consensus thing because remember, Consensus is owned, or yes, Consensus is funded by J.P. Morgan, and J.P. Morgan Chase is basically Standard Oil Bank, which David Rockefeller, if we come back to David Rockefeller here, was the chairman of. So these three, Lawrence Rockefeller, David Rockefeller, and Nelson Rockefeller, are all brothers. Okay. So all of this is happening pretty much simultaneously. The creation of Intel, creation of Alpo that are funded by Rockefellers. Um, Kissinger and what Kissinger is doing, and Ford, what President Ford is doing, Henry Truman's doing, um, Eisenhower's doing. That's happening simultaneously with all of these brothers, and the Drapers funding the rebuilding of Western Europe. All this is happening at the same time. So, all while this is happening, David Rockefeller is chairman of Chase Bank. So, how Chase is involved, if they're involved, giving money to the World Bank and all of this stuff, that's a high probability. It's a high probability. Um, but it was very interesting that we got into this, right? And we saw that Chase Bank expanded their operations not only to Moscow, but to China. And remember, during the same time, this via Draper's father and grandfather, this Import Export Bank of America is doing a lot of rebuilding of things. Let me see if I can bring up Import Export Bank right quick. So it's interesting, all of this stuff happening at the same time, but these guys are setting up. They're setting up some really. They're setting up like a lot of what's happening in our world as far as banking go. They're setting it up at this point in time. So remember, Draper's father was working with this, or grandfather was working with the Import Export Bank and the World Bank with the Marshall Plan for post-war to reconstruction um, of. But then later, all the things that are happening in the USSR and stuff like that, George Bush and William Draper III, Draper's daddy, are doing business interests over in Russia. Um, Again, there were some things going on with China here as well. You can see, where was it? This Burma road that they built, constructed between 1937 and 1938. By XM in 1938. So um, this is before the World War, um, that they're doing this construction, and apparently part of that construction was used to purchase Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors vehicles. So it seems to me that interests were happening in China even before the World War, but see here what David Rockefeller interests were happening in China after the World War as well. Where was it? Okay, later, also that year, Rockefeller, and this is 1973, traveled to China, resulting in the bank becoming a national bank of China's first correspondent bank in the U.S. So it sounds like to me the National Bank of China has some relations with Chase Bank, and National Bank of China sounds like to me that that's the Chinese central bank. Not sure, would have to verify that, but there we go, right? Okay, so it's saying that they have some problem. But obviously, they survived those problems that they were having there. They say they had some international incident. Like, I don't know how much you can trust these international incidents when there's all this money moving back and forth, and they're building stuff in Europe, and they're they're having interests in China and Russia. I just don't know what to take from all of that. But I really just don't know what to take from all of that. November 1979, while chairman of Chase Bank, Rockefeller became embroiled in an international incident in which he and Henry Kissinger, here's Kissinger and the Rockefellers again, along with John J. McCloy and Rockefeller aides, persuaded President Jimmy Carter through the United States Department of State to admit the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, into the United States for hospital treatment for lymphoma. This action directly participated what is known as the Iran hostage crisis and placed Rockefeller under intense media scrutiny, particularly from the New York Times, for the first time in his public life. Rockefeller retired from active management of the bank in 1981, succeeded by his protege. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened in this. Uh, was a diplomatic standoff between Iran and the United States. 53 American diplomats and citizens were held hostage after a group. Okay, yeah, could probably goes outside of what we're trying to talk about here, so I'm not going to talk about that. Um, okay, so yeah, David Rockefeller here. So I think those were the only things I wanted to cover there. Let me be sure here. Oh, just to show you something, there seems to be this interbreeding or intermarrying between these popular American families, or rich American families, and the British royals. Here we have Kathleen Kennedy marrying William Cavendish of Britain. We also have a Vanderbilt Consuelo. Okay, I must have closed her. But Consuelo Vanderbilt marrying a okay, okay, marrying a Churchill and becoming a countess. So it seems to be that there's some intermarrying these British royals, and of course, the Bushes also claim that they have a British royal lineage. So a lot of these uh, big American families seem to be family with the British royals. So go figure there. I don't know. I just think that's kind of important to point out. But one other important family that kind of came up is the Mellon family. They're really big in Pittsburgh. Seems like this Mellon family, they they continue to be a part of XRP. We're here with one of the younger members of the Mellon family. We probably won't go as far back with these guys, but they say here that They're involved in XRP and turned a 2 million investment into of XRP into $1 billion fortune. We already know that Rothschilds are invested in XRP. So we have a lot of kind of rich families when you think of the Drapers, the Rothschilds, and the Mellons involved in XRP and all the different other cryptocurrencies that are members of the World Economic Forum. Because remember, Ripple is one. We have big families involved in that. And if we go look at B and Y, this is the bank the Mellon family are involved with. We do see consensus here. So hence we have the Drapers, the Mellons, and the Rockefellers as part of consensus. Um, so that really kind of rings like when you see something and that's his portfolio, that really makes me kind of perk up and say, okay, well, all these different families are involved with consensus and the consensus portfolio. That may be something to look at. Because again, look at what we've traced, Lawrence Rockefeller to Intel and Apple. We traced the Drapers to Tesla, Twitter, the birth of Silicon Valley, and which again is further evidenced by Intel and Apple here with Lawrence Rockefeller, and of course we have them with Chase Bank. So following the money to me just makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Pun intended. It makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense, as in dollars. But all right, let's see what we have as far as comments. Oh, thank you for dropping that into the Telegram. Let me go over here and look at our comments. Okay, so yeah, so bringing it all back, these might families that we want to pay attention to when it comes to crypto investing, particularly um, the Mellon family, the Draper family, and the Rockefeller family. And the Rockefeller family through consensus, which we can pull up here. Actually, we want to see the consensus portfolio. So we've linked consensus to, again, like 3 of America's pretty wealthy families with the Drapers, the Rockefellers, and the Mellons. So we may want to pay attention to some of their portfolio, right? Of course, Axie Infinity, because that's a big one. But there's someone here like Telos. Shout out to the Patreon. We've told you guys about Telos and others that we might just want to pay attention to on there. And Scale. We've talked about Scale as well. Just some ones that we might want to pay attention to coming out of consensus, right? And we may want to pay attention a little bit more to BNY Mellon and what they're doing. In fact, let's look a little bit at their portfolio and what they have. So 8 investments for these guys. Talos, Fireblocks, of course, great. Consensus. So it looks like they want to hold on to the money. BNY Mellon, of course, as a bank, they want to kind of control the purse strings, right? And this seems to be common out of these families, as far as like, the Rockefellers and Chase Bank, BNY Mellon, for the Mellon family, the Drapers and their VC capital firms. Um, it seems to be, and we've also been over how many exchanges that the Drapers have under their control, that they're initially invested in: Coinbase, Robinhood, um, Gemini, CoinDX, just to name a few. So, any ways that we can have our investments in these, like we know that Robinhood is publicly traded. We know that Coinbase is publicly traded. We know that, different types of exchanges. We've been over some of them, and shout out to the Patreon. Patreon has certain lists on certain exchanges and stuff that are involved with the World Economic Forum, that are involved with these people, right? So we definitely want to invest in those. They're going to be the next banks, the banking 2.0s, if you will, of what's coming up next with money. Um, one thing that we might want to pay attention to coming up here in 2029, uh, that's going to be 100 years since the Great Depression, right? Um, in here, in last year, I believe it was, it's been 52 years since Richard Nixon took us off of the gold standard. And again, remember, Nixon was involved with all of these different people we were just talking about, the Rockefellers and all of this. And it's been over 2 years since Nixon has taken us off the gold standard. And what have we done since then? We've done nothing but inflate. Um, Nothing but inflate. Um, Let me see. Where is the best one? Here we go. Um, Price of a can of soup since 1971 has skyrocketed. So it's like 9 times more expensive. Like, I don't even know what it is right now. Uh, this right now, this one, for this particular one, it says what, 90 cents? Is that 90 or is that a dollar? That's a dollar. Okay, so I don't even know what it is right now because I don't eat soup like that. Somebody in the chat might be able to tell me, but I think that money, as far as we know right now, is in for a revolution, and we're kind of at the door here with cryptocurrency. So when Larry Fink tells us that Bitcoin is digital gold, I kind of believe him, right? It's gold that these people can control, um, because someone can always go and mine and find gold, right? And depending on what you believe about the Philosopher's Stone, there may be the possibility that somebody could make it, right? I don't know about that or not, but let's just say that at least people can find gold, right? Well, with Bitcoin, there's only 21 million of them, period. So um, I can see why they would want to have control of that. And with things like the BlackRock ETF, ETFs and ETPs, remember we covered that as well in the episode. I can't remember which, but they are these VC firms are stockpiling Bitcoin and stockpiling certain cryptocurrencies. So I don't think I think not financial advice, just my thought with my portfolio, right? I don't think we have to wait too long before we see cryptocurrency paying big dividends. Um, to um, let me not use the word because that can mean something else. I don't think there's long before we see that cryptocurrency will massively pay off. Even in this like lower cryptocurrency climate, this cooling off of cryptocurrency, like just some of the things that we've invested in as a community, right? Let's take LCX for example. We were talking about it over here at 4 cents. It's still up to 12 cents. If we look at things like CAS, right? CASPA, we were in it like 1 or 2 cents. It's at 14. We're up like 7x on this, right? Things like CleanSpark, which is a Bitcoin miner. We told you about that. Best performing crypto miner. It's down to $8 now, but we were investing at $1.77. So we're still up what 4x? And when it was just chilling here at 17, we were up, God, like 8x, right? So even though this bull run, or this part of the bull run, let me say, has been shorter than people expected, um, we here have still prospered a lot from what's happened, right? Um, and shout out to the Patreon. We've been talking about Velo, right? Velo, and it always seems to be that Velo runs inverse of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's going down, Velo's going up for whatever reason. That just seems to be what happens. But Velo, we were talking about this at the beginning of the year too, right? And since the end of the year of last year, it's up what? Say, let's just say it was at 0.33. It's up, that would be what, 5, 6x, right? So Jasmine, even though it's gone down too, we've been talking about that. I made sure every time I talked about Maximus Crypto, right? And Max's channel, shout out to Max, I would mention Jasmine. It's up 4 or 5x, right? And if you take everybody's darling from this year, right? Nvidia, of a stock, right? Everybody loves to talk about the stocks, right? And how they're regulated or whatever. But even taking Nvidia, if you bought at the middle of the year, right? It's like $45. You're still only up maybe 2x, 40 $40. Let's see, even if you had sold up here, that's still only a two, or that's still only like a 3x here. So we with a lot of these picks, we've faced Nvidia or done much better than Nvidia, right? So um I like what we're doing here, right? I really like what we're doing here. Not financial advice, but I like what I'm doing here with my portfolio. I really like it. Um, see if we got any questions here. Even a cup of noodles are no longer 3 for $1. Yeah, I know, right? Last time I looked at Campbell's chicken soup, we were like at $1.40 a can. See what I'm saying? Like, and bro, something has to give here. And you guys know how I love to talk about the hermetic principles, right? Every the principle of rhythm, right? And we see the principle of rhythm when we look at things like stocks, right? And cryptocurrency, and the principle of rhythm play out all the time here. And no bigger principle of rhythm here than Bitcoin, right? In the 4 year cycle of Bitcoin, right? We see it go up, we see it go down. But if we go to the week chart here, one thing is certain, that its trend is up. Look at that. As far as the 200 EMA is concerned, its trend is up. Okay. Same thing if we look at Ethereum, and we've told you the people who are involved in Ethereum, right? The Mellons, the Drapers, the Rockefellers. That's what we've been talking about, right? Its trend is up. So if we look at different things that are kind of like adjacent to that, like Robinhood, in which you can buy cryptocurrency, they just bought an exchange, a foreign cryptocurrency exchange. The trend is up. Now imagine buying Robinhood in the stock splits, like what happened with Nvidia, right? Maybe that's something that can happen with something like a Robinhood. Maybe that's something that can happen with something like a Clean Spark, right? But we're following cryptocurrency not only in the crypto market, but in the stock market as well. And we're paying attention to things like Robinhood, things like SoFi. We're paying attention to those, right? So if we go back to our Draper mind map here, we can see that to just kind of reiterate our point here, Draper seems to be wanting to control where the money goes himself, in that you got these plethora of exchanges that this guy has: Coinbase, Gemini, CoinDX, Virgo CX, Robinhood, HBK, or Hong Kong Bit Exchange, Lemon Cash, Uno Coin, um, Onera, Rise, Revolut, which I don't have on here. I should have it on here. PDAX, CoinHaku, RockX, payment platforms, YePay, Wire, Bitrefill, Ledger, Prosper, Opolis, Arise again here. So it's kind of insane when you look at it, in all these different venture capital firms. Like, we're following the money, and we're gonna make sure we get our fill there, right? Um, okay, I gotta. There are a couple exchanges I need to add to this. Like I need to add Revolut to this. Oh yeah, and Swift here with MoneyGram. Also have to add MoneyGram. Okay, so let's go back here. And still others like no SHX strong. This is not gonna look like it should. Like, they've been playing shenanigans with Stronghold, in that they got it taken off of places, re-put back on places, and taken off places, so you can't see the real chart history. Um, it's definitely up from where it was, because it was like three. Let me see if I can. Oh yes, another thing to just kind of point out with Swift blockchain, right? Draper Dragon. So you got Draper on one side, and then you got Node Capital and a Rothschild on the other. So this is Node Capital, and we got Mr. Ben Rothschild there. So it really strikes me that this may be something that is really big for BRICS, as far as BRICS is concerned, and the next kind of Money 2.0 going on. And I think BRICS is going to be a big part of Money 2.0, like the next faction of money. And if you believe in kind of like the whole rhythm thing, the whole principle of rhythm, maybe that rhythm, since the United States has been the world currency for like almost 100 years or 52 years or 53 years or whatever it's been, maybe that's going to tip a little bit more towards the Asian side of things, right? That's not saying that I'm thinking that the dollar, and I'm not rooting for this at all. The dollar is going to be totally trashed, but maybe it takes a little step down, right? You don't have all these countries, or you don't have all these companies like PayPal and all these different things creating pegs to the dollar for no reason, right? It's clearly going to still be something, right? But as far as being the big, 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 big world currency, like it's been, I don't, I don't think we have too many more years of that happening, right? So shout out to the patrons. We did cover that SHAX is something to look at. Like starting to look like here in the fourth quarter, things might pick back up a little bit more. But again, you know, things may pick back up, but come 2025, I think that's when things are really kind of gonna blow off, real, or you know what I mean. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's some good history, bro. Thanks, Lake Square. Thanks, E. Thanks, Prospector. A Coinbase stock is up from around $30 from where we were in January 2023. Kraken Circle are going to go public in a few months too. I can see many other cryptocurrency exchanges going public as well. Also, as many other cryptocurrency cold storage wallets, DeFi wallets, they can all go public if they can survive. I can see many cryptocurrency projects going public, adding many trillions of dollars in a way of less time than many of the leading companies of today. That's true. I could see that happening as well, E. But the thing that we all kind of have to realize about that and understand about that is a lot of times when these things go public, initially they end up dumping on us. So I don't know if that's something like, unless you've already kind of gotten a private investment with it, like through something like Link2, which I know they're allowing you to do with Ripple. Now, I don't know how kind of lucrative that would be, but that is an option. But a lot of times when these companies first get it introduced to us via the stock market, there ends up being a dump. So just be aware, guys, that should some of these things go public, you may want to wait, because what may happen is a dump off. SoFi is a little different because it started as a SPAC, so it started as a $10 price, so that's why it's kind of a little bit different than the ones I just showed you, because none of them were SPACs. They were just kind of straight out of the gate things there. But just be cautious when something first comes out. You usually, and maybe that's a play to say, okay, I'm going to short when it comes out. That's up to you. Shorting is very risky. I'm not suggesting anyone do that. It's not financial advice. Do what you want with your portfolio. But I'm just saying, initially, just looking at Coinbase here and looking at Robinhood here, generally when these things first come out, um, it's usually a dump happening there because the people who privately invested are now looking to cash in on whatever price they initially set, and they cash in. Um, and as you can see, they eventually come back to the fold, but initially they just cash in because what they know is going to happen, right, is that the news people are going to be hyping it up. They're going to hype. Oh, Coinbase, and because like it or not, like these people have a pretty big control over media, right? Um, so the news is hyping it, and this is what happens, right? Um, which is why with Nvidia, all this hype that we had got over Nvidia, like it was like steaming hot for like so long. Like only time it really took a dip is here after Rona, right? But it was steaming hot for all this time. Like I think it kind of has to come down now. Like look at that, it's really high. I think it kind of just has to come down. Um, Maybe it's not done falling here. If you look at the regular RSI, it maybe it made it back to the halfway point. Maybe it could go back up after this. Because if you look at the stochastic RSI, it's kind of low on that. But I don't know, man. It's so high. I don't know why you would necessarily want to buy at this point with this thing being so screeching hot. I would probably have to see it back with the regular RSI. I would have to see it here before I would buy again. Um, but, maybe all I know is I don't know that I would want to touch this thing at this point. Not financial advice. Do what you will, and this is a little different. So for people who have things and like there's like 401ks and maybe you can buy singular stocks in your 401k. I can't mine, but it's up to you at that point. But this thing is pretty screeching hot. But yeah, bottom line, I was saying that to say um, maybe if some of these things do go public, I don't know if you want to buy them out the gate if they do go public, because it might possibly be that they dump on you. It depends. It depends, but it's just something to be aware of. Then if it runs up all Sol, or we could wait until these projects dump and get in hard, but we need a net worth of to be a what do they call it? I can't remember the name. Qualified investor or something like that. You got to have a net worth of a million or more to be an early investor in some of these. I believe with Ripple, with Link 2, I think it's called, or Link Q. Link Link Q. Link 2. I think this is the one that was allowing you to invest in Ripple. I'm not sure if they're still allowing that or not. but I think you have to be like a qualified investor for some of these. You have to have at least $2,500 to invest. And who knows, how long money's gonna sit there. We got Ripple, some other companies here, Consensus, right? Chain analysis, which I think we were just looking here in the BY Mellon portfolio. Chain analysis was another one of their investments. What do you know, right? See, following the money, right? Following the money. Shield AI, Axiom Space, Quantum Space, Ledger, Impossible Foods, Epic Games, I Trust Capital, Astranis Space, yeah, out of these, I would be very interested in Consensus. I would be interested in Ripple. Yeah, Ripple, Ledger, Epic Games. What was that other one? Chain Analysis. Yeah, and Consensus. Yeah, along with Ripple. Yeah, I have to look into this, see if this is something. It's like just like how long will you have to wait, right, until it goes public? Um, a lot of these companies might go public next year, though, like E was saying. So, like Ripple, like if it goes public, what type of investment do you look? What type of X would you get on your money, right? Accredited. Yeah, accredited investor. Thanks, Bo. XMB John Solly is an early investor. Grant Hill and others are part of a group. I hope to have a net worth and assets $1 million to be qualified to invest in some of these early projects. Me too, bro. Me too, bro. Just remember when you get there, guys, to make sure that you figure out how you can take taxes too, right? Because you don't want to be paying a lot of your money in taxes. And when I'm saying that, I'm totally talking about legally, how you can legally take advantage of taxes. Not financial advice, not I'm not a tax advisor or anything. This is not. This is just the rich make sure that they pay the least amount in taxes possible. That's just what they do. Um, so yeah, so very interesting. Like next episode, I think we'll talk about like I really think this is a great time right now if you want to reorganize your portfolio to be ready for 2025. This is the time, right? There's so many different cryptocurrencies out there at a bargain right now. Um, you know, Again, we showed you some that we've been invested in that we're like majorly up on still. Um, but now might be the time to reorganize. if you want to reorganize. Like we know Swift is on a major bargain right now. They under 0.003 right now. Again, we've shown you as far as like Rothschilds and Drapers who are invested in this cryptocurrency, like, but even having them get to a cent, that's like a 3x, right? Um, let's go back to the area. So, going to be very, very, very happy for that when it realizes its BRICS plan. I really think we can see this to 30 cents or more. Not financial advice or anything like that, but I definitely do see that in its future. You know, from my portfolio, that's what I'm looking at as a point that I may take profits. I know a crypto guy who streams and talks about crypto taxes. He actually does taxes, and I'll put his info in the Telegram. Thank you, Prospector. Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that. So just really cool. We just saw BNY Mellon, the chain analysis is apparently a pre-IPO company that you can invest in here and link to. Just further proof of why like we're it makes a little sense to follow the money, right? Um, but yeah, this is all I wanted to hit you guys with today. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. We'll be back at it hopefully on Wednesday or Thursday, one of the two. Um, and thank you guys so much for coming through. Um, have a good Sunday.